Welcome to the 10-minute series of videos related to competency-based programs. My name is Madeline Bazergi from the Office of Academic Development at Dawson College, and I'm pleased to present the first of a three-part series on program design. Program design from Z to A, crafting the exit profile. In this first part, we examine how the Office of Academic Development at Dawson College supports programs in developing an exit profile. The second video expands on the program design process, and the third video elaborates the development of a competency logigram and program matrix. At the end of these three videos, you will be able to design your course as part of a coherent program. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines design to create, fashion, execute, or construct according to plan. Designing is an intentional process. And a program is an integrated set of learning activities leading to the achievement of education objectives based on a set of standards. So, our goal is to plan and create a set of integrated learning activities based on the ministerial objectives and standards. I will start by explaining how we use a backward design process to design programs, starting with the formulation of an exit profile. In a backward design approach to designing a program or a course or even a lesson, we start with the end in mind by identifying the results we expect at the end of the learning period. What should students be able to do at the end of the program, at the end of a course, or at the end of a lesson? In the case of a program-level learning outcomes are packaged in an exit profile. After we've identified what we expect students to be able to do upon program completion, we then determine what we will need as evidence to attest that students have achieved those desired results. In our case, our comprehensive examination measures the achievement of those program-level learning outcomes. We can decide this even before we design our program. The next step is to plan the learning activities in order to achieve those desired results. Competency-based programs lend themselves well to this approach. This is a far cry from the traditional model of designing a program by selecting courses first or retrofitting what we already have to new ministerial competencies. Or, for the case of a course, designing it based on chapters 1 to 15 of a book, starting with the learning objectives, planning the learning activities, and then developing the assessment. The backward design approach forces us to think about what we want our students to know and to do, and how we will assess them. It is a goal-oriented approach. So we have institutional level learning outcomes, we have program level learning outcomes, but we can also have course, unit, or lesson learning outcomes. We design our programs backward, but deliver them forward. The next step in the backward design process is to develop those assessments and align them with the learning outcomes. The program committee is responsible for the comprehensive examination, and the teachers or departments are responsible for assessing the competencies that are developed in courses. When designing a coherent program, it's important to consider general education and the ministerial common competencies. The ministry states that general education is an integral part of each program and, when coupled with the program-specific component as part of an integrated approach, fosters the development of competencies required by all programs. How will this integration take place? One solution is to work it into the program design process from the very beginning. Another formulation of the question may sound like this: how do we build an exit profile that is greater than the sum of the program parts? During the program revision, we work with writers to build an exit profile both from the top down and from the bottom up. What do I mean by this? Well, we start with the graduate profile that describes the competencies common to all our graduates. If we didn't have a graduate profile, the common competencies described in the Ministerial Programme de Vie are a good starting point. Because the exit profile outcomes reflect the integration of learning, we need to consider a program's competencies, but at a meta level. When we develop a program, the first task of the revision committee writers is to create logical groups of competencies and write meta-competency statements for both general and specific education. Although the aims of college education relate to what colleges aim to do rather than what graduates are able to do, we also consider these during exit profile development to remind us that we are not only preparing students for a career or further studies, but for the next level of life. The exit profile sits at a meta level between the program meta competencies, both general and specific, and the graduate profile. The difference between the levels is a matter of specificity. As we move up from competencies to the exit profile, we increase in complexity and in the integration of knowledge, skills, and attitudes. The exit profile is built both from the bottom up and from the top down. So how do we ensure the integration of general education across the program to foster the development of the common competencies or the graduate profile? I'll explain our three-step process that starts with an ideation session. We begin with a visioning exercise with the program committee. By default, the program committee consists of both general and specific education. We may also consult an advisory group and review surveys from students and graduates in order to make informed program design decisions. What's important is that general education and specific education that includes contributing disciplines have a common vision of what a program graduate will look like. We use the graduate profile as a starting point for discussions. The ideation session stimulates a very rich exchange. The writers then craft outcome statements from faculty and advisory group input, data gathered, the program meta competencies, and the aims of college education. With a lens on the student and not on teaching or learning, the first question we pose is, what should graduates of the program be able to do once they have taken and passed all their courses at the end of the program? In order to avoid discussing teaching and learning, one needs to imagine that the student is a citizen working in the occupation or pursuing university or other studies. The question is, with the competencies they've already achieved, what should they now be able to do? The question to the program committee and other invited faculty can then be rephrased for each of the graduate profile outcomes. The graduate profile can act as the umbrella under which we have developed the students. Once the students have passed all their courses and have completed the program, what do you expect them to be able to do with respect to communication? Not just in general, but for the specific context of your program, as well as for the next level of life. The facilitator receives input from all faculty and encourages links between general education and specific education. For example, the facilitator may ask the English department how a photography graduate can apply the competencies they developed in literary genres and themes to their occupation or to citizenship. The exercise is then repeated for the health and well-being graduate profile outcome, making sure that both the specific and general education teachers are engaged in the process. It is really important to probe. And then the process is repeated for all the other graduate profile outcomes. Then the difficult work begins, synthesizing all the feedback with the program meta competencies. The program designers and writers analyze faculty input and the data collected in order to craft exit profile outcome statements reflecting the integration of learning. Here's an example from a fictitious social science program. At the end of the program, graduates should be able to communicate in English both orally and in writing. Rather than writing a one-size-fits-all learning outcome, a statement reflecting the integration of critical thinking skills, program meta competencies, and communication would look like this. Articulate a coherent and cogent argument in writing and orally based on credible sources, differentiating facts from opinions. Here's an example from the interior design program. Ensure that design proposals consider environmental sustainability and the health, safety, and well-being of users. In this example, social responsibility, health and well-being, and the program meta competencies are subsumed in this outcome statement. One might even say that design proposals include a written component, thus adding one more layer to this learning outcome. Here are more examples showing how exit profile outcomes can reflect the integration of general and specific education, and that how these statements are driven by the graduate profile. From the diagnostic imaging program, interact professionally and ethically with consideration for social and cultural diversity, respecting the worldviews and values of others, including clients, colleagues, and supervisors. Complement imagery with written storytelling, effectively articulating ideas and concepts in English. The English department faculty member helped the photography-specific education faculty make links between visual and written storytelling. Utilisez citer des ressources documentaires en français et en anglais pour la recherche scientifique en utilisant les normes appropriées. Interpret and report qualitative and quantitative data collected during research, avoiding the pitfalls of data misrepresentation and misinterpretation. Once we have an exit profile, we can design the program to get students from point A to point Z. The program revision writers now have their eye on the prize, and so will all the stakeholders. Let's go back to our backward design process. Now that we know what results we expect from our students, what they should be able to do at the end of the program as described in the exit profile, we can now develop a comprehensive examination that can measure whether students have achieved the learning outcomes, and we can do so even before creating the program that will get them there. The next step is to develop the program structure, select the courses, and then the faculty will develop learning and assessment activities. All of these are driven by expected results. This is the interior design program. There is a reason why Worldviews is in Term 2 with the art and the built environment and interior design 2. A decision was made to group relevant courses in Term 2 in order to help meet one of the exit profile outcomes. The same was done with French in the final term. When students in Term 2 now ask, "But Miss, why do we have to take humanities?" both the specific and general education teachers can point to the exit profile. Both the specific and general education faculty can now explain by pointing to the exit profile learning outcome number 3. And mention that interior designers design for people with different worldviews and different living conditions, and that ideas can be borrowed from different cultures and moments in history. And what a better place to learn about this than in the humanities courses. But an exit profile can be meaningless unless it permeates every aspect of design, delivery, and management of programs, that it becomes a living document, that program managers Ensure that stakeholders such as the general and specific education teachers in the program, the chairs and coordinators, and academic advisors all have a copy. That presentation materials such as the website, the view book, and the student manual make reference to the program's learning outcomes. And that academic materials such as the comprehensive exam and the course outlines make reference to the exit profile outcomes. Oh, and let's not forget the student, our most important stakeholder. As a final note, exit profiles do not describe what students will learn in the program, nor what will be taught. Rather, the learning outcomes describe what students should be able to do with the competencies they've achieved, and in complex situations, representative of the occupation or in the pursuit of university studies. One can think of program competencies as the dry and wet ingredients for writing an exit profile, and the graduate profile as the icing. The exit profile outcomes are greater than the sum of the program parts, the results of integrating the ingredients. Now that we have an exit profile, we can begin the process of designing the program structure, selecting courses, and developing learning and assessment activities.